Welcome to another episode of The Brand Called You, a podcast and podcast show that brings you leadership lessons, knowledge, experience, and wisdom from thousands of successful individuals from around the world. I'm your host, Ashutosh Garg, and today I'm delighted to welcome a very, very senior and accomplished professional from Gurgaon, India, Jaya Bhateja. Jaya, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Ashutosh. Thank you for inviting me here.
Thank you. Jaya is the founder of the Abhyudaya Global Coach Circle. She's an official member of the Forbes Coaches Council and Director of Coaching Education. So, Jaya, before we talk coaching, tell me a little bit about your own journey.
Where should I start from, Ashutosh?
From your professional life?
From my professional life. So, I did my MBA in HR and marketing, and it was, the first choice to start my career was HR.
Mm-hmm.
Started my career from recruitment, and I think now when I look at hindsight, I have an experimental nature. So if I don't really enjoy something, I like to change that. So start recruitment, and then started a job in general HR, and then did a couple of more roles, and finally training. And I realized that my whole journey was about experimentation, and I was trying to look for something inside, which so really my journey was about experimentation. So I've done HR roles, supply demand roles, training roles, recruitment. And that's when around 2010, I realized I think I'm looking for something which I'm not getting. So better, let's start looking. So my manager was doing a coaching course that time. And she suggested, I asked her, I said, I'm just not able to find my ground. What do you think I should do? She said, try coaching. I don't know, it'll work for you or not. So I started my coaching journey in 2010. And then there was no looking back. Wonderful. So 2000 internally did some coaching work, externally, and then dived deeper into it.
Fantastic. And that's when I guess you started Abhyudaya Global Coach Circle.
Yeah, 2015 is when Abhyudaya was born.
Wonderful. What does Abhyudaya mean?
So Abhyudaya is a Sanskrit word, Abhay and Daya. So it has two meanings. One is sunrise, and it's also fearless. Abhay.
Okay.
Fearless. Yeah.
Fantastic. And how do you define a global coach circle?
Yeah, so interestingly, when I formed Abhyudaya, it was a Sanskrit word, and I work with people across the globe, and I've obviously had this concern that people are not able to pronounce, even Indians were finding it difficult to pronounce it. So I said, hey, listen, I need to add something so that people understand, because there's something called Abhyudaya Bank as well. So I said, let me add something so that people understand it's a coaching thing. So I had 3 ideas in mind. One was global coach network, one global coach community, global coach circle. And to describe its true nature of being a common language among human, global came in. Coach was obvious, and circle because every circle is a continuum. Sun is a continuum. Life is a continuum.
Correct.
So that's how I closed down on the word circle rather than network or community.
Amazing. Okay. So when I was reading about you, I was fascinated to read about what you define as the care culture, which is conversations, accountability, reflection, and empathy. Tell me a little bit about this and give me some examples.
So care basically is a framework to build coaching cultures in the organization, so understanding the benefits of what coaching brings to the world. The coaching culture can be built on these 4 pillars. And the whole idea is, how do we promote more authentic conversations in the organization? So not only coaching, but how can you do more and more activities and initiatives in the organization related to promoting conversations? Accountability, build your process around that, have more accountability, build more processes around reflection. So it's a strategy. It's basically a strategic framework to build a sustainable leadership in any organization. That's what care is standing for.
And when you talk about the 4 elements of care, conversations, accountability, reflection, and empathy, what is the process you follow?
So basically we start with training the leaders on these processes, and then also work with the senior leaders to build their values and cultures around that and promote behaviors around that. There is also a strategy around how do you market it internally, how do you promote culture, and how do you make it a norm to have open conversations where people don't mind giving open feedback and don't mind having authentic conversation. There is how do you reduce the element of bias? How do you reduce the element of hush hush and those conversations which are not to be spoken about? So bringing that. So when we implement this kind of a strategy, we bring a holistic nature and say, it's not about working with the HR and implementing training program, but building it through the organization, through multiple functions like marketing, value system, culture, and everything else. So it's like a strategic, huge initiative, which at times get implemented, at times take a lot of time, or is done in phases.
Very interesting. So moving on, Jaya, given your own background in HR and then being a coach and then forming your own company as an entrepreneur, and I'm just differentiating between as an entrepreneurial coach and as a employee coach, if I can use that term, how has your background supported your own coaching philosophy, your style, and your values?
So it's a difficult question, Ashutosh, honestly, because background is a blend of a lot of stuff, right? Your childhood, your parents' culture, and who you are in this world and what you want to do.
True.
So when I reflect back now, I feel that I have borrowed a lot of traits from my parents of entrepreneurship and leadership and experimentation and courage and all those things. And that has really been the foundation of what I'm doing now. And definitely all my career and my education supported me. So my experience in HR and training is really the basis of Abhyudaya. I had to learn some very tough stuff when I came out as an entrepreneur, because how do you really run a business was not my thing. I have never done. I had to learn those ropes, and I'm still learning. Finance was like, oh my God, what is it? So I still spend a lot of time in my CA to understand how GST works, all this. So I think it was one word to describe to your question is experimentation. That's in my blood. I think I've learned that from my mother. She's very entrepreneurial nature and very optimistic. So nothing bogs her down. So my background that way has actually pushed me to do things that I really like.
Interesting. And my next question is all related, which is that, we've all been shaped by different people in our lives. And we bring a lot of these perspectives, the personalities into our relationship with our coaches. Who have you been shaped by, and what have been their influences on you?
I think we are never shaped by one person, right?
Absolutely.
We have different strands from different people. Correct. So including parents, and then some mentors, some colleagues, friends, my life partner, my son. Everybody has been some influence of some time.
Correct.
And my versions have changed. Like everybody, my versions have changed drastically in so many years. And what is interesting to see is you never arrive. You never have learned enough, and there is always something to learn upon. And the moment you think you have learned, you have been made realize that no, the journey is not over. So that has been my learning. So whatever I keep learning, I keep implementing with my clients. And when I see back, I also see I've made some mistakes because of the kind of awareness I had that time. And now when the awareness has changed, how things change with that. So I think, again, coaching is also a very experimental place. There is no one session or one engagement which goes best, and nothing like that. You're working with humans, they're complex, life is evolving, and then you keep changing stuff.
Wonderful. And then what would you say are some of your own unique perspectives that you bring into a coachee-coach relationship?
I think, again, that comes from my own life experiment to say there is behind every leader, a successful person whom I'm talking to, there's a human behind that.
Correct.
And every human has a story behind it, which is influenced by their experience and all that. So I always try to look there. I always try to look at the larger picture, at the whole holistic perspective of the person, to say, hey, who is this person and what is he trying to do, or what is she trying to do here? And how can I support in that perspective? So that helps me remove a lot of bias. That also helps me work at a human level and remove my lenses about experiences and knowledge and all that. So that I think has been extremely supportive. So that also removes the barrier of what do you say, seniority or hierarchy and everything, even gender and everything. So then that makes my work very easy. It's not easy to reach here, but then I think since once you have developed that perspective, it helps you to see
Mm,
things in a different way. You see that
mm,
this person is trying to succeed in what they're trying to do, and they're human like you.
well said.
That
So another
helps.
question that I have is that, I remember when I was soon after my MBA, and I'm 66 years old, but I remember coaching or mentoring was done either by a family elder or by someone senior in a company who took a liking for you. As someone who's a much younger leader who has, seen a lot of changes and have been in HR, I wanted to get your perspective, Jaya, on what has changed that coaching has become so formalized and people are willing to pay for it.
That's a very interesting question. So 2010, when I started coaching as a formal course, when I started
Mm,
learning, I used to get comments from very learned people around me saying, "You wasting your time.
mm.
Coaching is done by somebody who has gray hairs, and you still
Yes.
have time. You enjoy your life. Why do you want to get into this? This is
Mm,
not for you. You won't get." And obviously, I did not like those comments, but then there was a reality in that.
mm.
There was a reality in, because that comes from our culture. Our culture has always been like.
Correct. Correct.
But I think now the world is understanding that we need a neutral space.
Mm,
We need a space which is not about experience and hierarchy, because the more and more experience comes into the room, the more and more
mm.
bias also comes with it, right? There is a set way of looking at
Sure.
things. So, what professional coaching has done, especially to India, is it has created a space, especially after pandemic, for people
Mm,
to open their minds and hearts without having those barriers of
mm,
experience. Even career limitings, right? I mean, if I'm talking to somebody in my organization, it can be career limiting for me.
mm,
So that neutral space with a lot of professionalism and a lot of education behind that creates a great combination for people to feel safe and talk about anything.
mm,
And that's primarily the reason why it has reached a level of professionalism. People are ready to pay, organizations are investing in it, and makes a very good proposition, because the person who's engaging with you has nothing to do, has no stake in your life,
mm.
and still stay professionally trained and educated to offer you a different perspective. So yeah, that's really the reason why landscape has changed.
Very interesting. And you spoke a little bit about culture. So my next question relates to culture. Uh, we are in a diverse cultural country that we work in. And as coaches, I'm sure we work with many, many different cultures. And when I say cultures, I mean not religions, but cultures in the sense some people are brought up as being very aggressive. Some people are brought up as people, and Indians particularly have this thing that let my work do the talking. Why should I talk about my work? My question to you, Jaya, is how does culture impact coaching?
How does culture impact? Oh, huge,
Mm,
because workplaces are made up of cultures, right? The common values that
correct.
everybody lives in.
Correct.
Families are made up of culture.
Absolutely.
And we are all puppets
Yeah.
of these cultures.
Absolutely.
Now, what coaching does is coaching helps people learn their internal culture.
Hmm.
Who are you? What are your beliefs? What are your thoughts? How do you think? How do you behave? How do you react? Everything.
Correct.
And then also brings the external culture in on the table to see, hey, let's create alignment. We
Hmm.
coexist, right? So the methodology of coaching is basically to say, hey, let's create coexistence and harmony between where you exist and what you want to do,
Hmm.
right? Without calling anything wrong or right, because there isn't anything like that.
Hmm.
Right? So the whole confusion stays because I have an internal culture and I need to fit into a culture which is opposite to me, and
Hmm.
I don't have an option to quit. So how do I
Hmm.
coexist with it? So
Hmm.
that's the facilitation work that coaching does, really.
Hmm. Hmm.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, yeah, makes a lot of sense. My next question to you is that, you would have worked for older leaders and young leaders. And, older leaders may still say that, yeah, you're still very young. And someone may say that, we can make all kinds of comments. What are your perspectives on the difference between coaching a senior leader versus an emerging leader?
So, interestingly, while these are some of the thoughts that come to our mind, which inhibits us to be in front of a senior leader, I have actually experienced senior leaders to be much more humble.
Mm,
I think they've seen life much more to be able to invite a new perspective for someone who's maybe filtered through their system to
mm,
be in front of them. While I had those fears too, how will I? What if they'll ask me something I don't know, and they
mm,
will say you're too young and all those things. But actually, my experience have been very, very humbling. In fact,
mm,
with younger leaders or with emerging leaders, that attitude is still there at times. Uh,
mm,
but when you're going through the organization, things are different.
mm,
So the difference in coaching these two kinds of leaders is just the difference in the starting point.
mm,
And everything else then converged to the self, and then self is basically a platform which was created by the conditioning through life experiences and childhood, and everything goes to the same place, I would say.
mm,
But
mm,
yeah, the starting point for everybody is different based on where are they talking from,
mm.
right?
Well said. My next question is on technology, Jay. I mean, every service, every industry is greatly being impacted by technology.
Yeah.
Is technology changing coaching as well?
Oh yeah, big time.
Hmm.
So basically, coaching has three functions. One is create insights. Second is change create a new muscle, and third is have a system to keep those habits in place.
Mm,
What is technology doing is it's acting at all the three
mm,
places. Latest example and talk of the town is ChatGPT. It is
correct.
also giving people insights about how do I apply my values.
Mm,
It has not reached a level of saying, okay, can you tell me what are my values? It,
mm,
but I don't think it's very far. It's not very far. I think
yeah,
all of us will have to think about new careers very soon.
correct, correct. And of course, ChatGPT will may not take over the perspectives a coach can offer, but certainly can do a lot of the mechanical work. I'm wondering if ChatGPT can help you do a 360 with your coaches, people around them, but who knows?
Yeah, it's doing a lot of work. I think the only thing technology may be a little far from would be the human connection
Correct.
and the touch and feel that we provide to each other when we meet each other in a cafe. We have a different kind of energy going on. I think that's what the leverage we have as a human, and
Hmm.
I think we need to learn how to work with technology.
Well said. Great response. Thank you. My next question is how long should a coaching relationship be for?
Well, there is a long and a short answer to that.
Hmm.
The short answer is when you're working on specific goals, you should always have a specific timeline, because
Hmm.
if there is no timeline, then there is no you also don't know when you have reached where and when do you have there is no north point,
Hmm.
right?
Hmm.
So when you're working on specific goals, there should be milestones and defining period, and you can always keep adding on.
Yeah.
And in our lives we all need people whom we can keep going to on need basis. So
Hmm.
is my purpose to reach a goal, or is my purpose to just find some perspective, or is my purpose to just share today? Creates the arrangement accordingly. So when
Hmm.
we work with the organizations, they have a particular purpose and a development area. They define number of session. It works like that. But there are times, like I work with coaches also, they'll just say, I just need some time with you to just have a conversation
Hmm.
because I'm feeling stuck, and one conversation can do for them. So
Hmm. Hmm.
really depends. What's the
Very
purpose?
interesting. Uh, my next question is, and I've often been asked this by a lot of people who are looking for coaches, is how can a potential coachee evaluate a coach?
Yeah, that's a little tough one. Again, when you're evaluating a coach, you at times we forget the human behind that.
Hmm.
So we have a lot of checklist
Hmm.
uh, to say all these things should be there. But then when a coach comes in front of you, that coach is trying to present themselves as a human,
Hmm.
right? So not everybody is great at interviewing, and then and especially when we know we are scanned, we don't do that well.
Hmm. Hmm.
That's where a lot of conversations gets muddled up. The advice that I can give right now is do your homework on internet, talk to people, see who are the people who have worked with
Correct.
them and speak to them, because that will give you a first-hand experience.
Yeah.
And then have a conversation, see whether energy matches or not.
Wonderful. So time for two more questions, yeah. My next question is on a lot of the young leaders who are coming into leadership roles in most businesses. And I do believe the millennials and the Gen Z leaders have brought in an absolutely new breath of fresh air and are doing a lot of changes, something that I'm from the boomers generation seems to have messed up a lot. And yet I wanted to get your thoughts on what are some of the areas these young leaders need to be coached in.
Again, there's no blanket answer to these things because based on who is coming from which education experiences, I'm seeing a mix. I'm seeing very mature leaders talking about purpose of life, and I'm also seeing people who are struggling with the basics, right? What is common across is everybody has access to knowledge, so nobody is looking for more knowledge. What is really missing in today's world is how do you work with others? How do you work with teams? How do you have cordial relationships? Because everything is treated like a process and 4 steps and tips and tricks, which I think the point is being missed by some of these millennials, that a lot of things are relationship based. Your business is relationship based. Not everything can be codified. Not everything can be on social media. So I think that element is a perspective that because this generation is also about performance. It's also about results. It's also about making it fast. I want to get free fast. So in that speed, they forget that that glue of relationship and human element. So I think that's where we do a lot of coaching with these.
Interesting. Very interesting. And my last question, Jaya, and this is for the many people who will listen to our conversation. Based on your own amazing journey and all the work you've done with so many different individuals as a coach, what would you say are 3 lessons or 3 learnings you want our viewers and listeners to take away?
Well, there are many. And if I have to quote 3, one would really be that we all get one life. If you don't want to believe in the next life concept, but you have one life, make best use of it. Second is to make any change in anything, we need courage. Cultivate the courage to operate with courage. That's a difficult one I see everywhere. People find it extremely difficult to do things that they truly believe in. And the third one is humans are all about expression. So we need to create spaces for expressions. And it can be in form of creativity, it can be form of a business, it can be form of anything else. But finding space to express yourself in this life is an extremely important experience we all should have as a human. Which
Fascinating. And on that note, Jaya, and your 3 amazing lessons, we have one life, make the best use of it. Second, you said was that build the courage to be able to do things that you want to do. And the third one you said was create space for expressions to express your own self. Thank you so much for speaking to me about your own journey, about Abhyudaya Global Coach Circle. Thank you for giving me so many different insights into coaching. And thank you for speaking to me. Good luck.
Thank you, Ashutosh. Thank you for your time.
Thank you for listening to the Brand Called You videocast and podcast, a platform that brings you knowledge, experience, and wisdom of hundreds of successful individuals from around the world. Do visit our website www.tbcy.in to watch and listen to the stories of many more individuals. You can also follow us on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Just search for the Brand Called You.